Hi, everybody. It's Neil Walters of neilsvideos.com. Happy Memorial Day if you're celebrating that. It's a day off here in the U.S. And today I have some interesting math for you and logic. Like, why did they do what they do in TownStar? And in my last game, when I was doing uniforms, I realized something that you actually make more money by selling your wool than you do wool yarn. Normally there's this concept that a tier two product, something that goes through a refinery or windmill or something like that, is worth more. And I think in real life it normally would be, but I guess it also depends on market demand. So, like, what if nobody out there wants to buy wool yarn? So maybe the price for wool yarn is not as much as the final finished product of uniforms. And so that's what I'm getting at here. Wool apparently has a good market, but wool yarn doesn't. So let's go into this spreadsheet. I will share it, and you can verify my math. I might have one column off somewhere that might have blown my whole theory here. But overall, my summary is when you're on the way to building uniforms, like at first I would think, well, I'll just sell wool yarn until I'm ready to sell uniforms. What I learned doing this math was it is better just to sell wool and don't even do wool yarn to sell as its own product. It's not a good stepping stage, okay, which is what one might normally think, okay, unless you do the math. Okay, so here is my math. So I have three little analysis tables here. The first one is called wool yarn analysis. That's all you really need to know. The rest of it is just kind of like gravy after that. So a wool, we know a wool yarn is 5 wools, 1 lumber, and 1 energy. So each one of those things has an individual sale price. So you can do it in ones or tens. So like 1 wool would be $37.50. 10 wool is 10 times that. Okay, I had to just check my numbers. Sometimes I confuse myself. So 10 wools cost this. 10 lumbers, if you normally you're not going to sell your lumber or your energy because it's not exactly free, but it's kind of like a sunk cost in your game. You're going to have to be making energy. You're going to have to be making lumber, and it's not something you would normally sell by itself. Okay, but let's add up all three of those ingredients. So now to get this number, I'm saying, well, you need 5 sets of 10, or you need 50 of these, however you want to do the math, and that gives this number here. So 5 times 37,500 is $187,000. And that's what I also have down here. That's what you get if you just build wool and sell it, okay? Now you throw in your lumber and your energy. All the ingredients here of making a wool yarn, one wool yarn, or actually 10 wool yarn, comes up to $202,500. Wool yarn only sells for $147,500. So you basically lose $55,000. That's my red and my green colors over here. You're making less money doing that than you would just wool. Or the other way to look at it is like this. Actually, just look at these two numbers right here. It's like, well, if I sell wool yarn, 10 of them will bring me $147,500. If I sell the ingredients, which would be 50 wool by themselves that make up those 10 yarns, I would actually have more money. I would have $187,500. So this is bigger than this. Therefore, that's where I get the idea that you should not sell wool yarn by itself. You'd be better off just selling your wool. So you could build those fabric plants, just don't turn them on yet, okay, until you're ready to actually make the wool for the uniforms. The reason I have the two different rows here, and I know that's a little confusing, is if you want to compare all ingredients right here. So this is the 147 minus the 202 means you're more or less losing $55,000 every time you sell a wool yarn if you include the cost of your lumber and your energy. But if you want to say, for example, well, I've got enough tree farms, I have enough batteries and energies and all that, I don't really care about the cost of those, well, then just compare your wool. So your wool minus, I just updated the spreadsheet. So let's compare again. If you sell wool yarn, 10 wool yarn, minus all the things that made up that wool yarn, you're really losing 55. But if you just sell your wool and compare that to just your yarn and not all the other ingredients, this is the formula I just changed. This is basically the 187 minus the 147, and that's a difference of $40,000. I had to change it again there because it is negative. So in other words, let me try to summarize that. It still boggles my mind, okay? that would you rather have 187,000 or 147,000? I think we'd all rather have 187,000, right? So if you sell your wool, okay, you're going to make $187,000. If you put that wool into yarn and sell it, you're going to make 147,000. That's less money. That's the bottom line, okay? Now, why would they do that? I don't know. It seems like that in a normal game, when you take time to build something out of something else, that product should sell for enough more to cover all your costs. So I think that's like a fallacy of their rules or their logic or whatever. Now I've updated my cotton numbers, and I thought it was negative, but it's actually positive. So again, we're saying, would you rather have $32,000, $32,500 from selling cotton yarn, or would you rather have $17,500 for just selling cotton? Because you have to compare 50 cottons to 10 yarns, okay? Because it takes 5 cottons to make 1 yarn. So now the number is in the green if you compared both. If you look at all the ingredients, it's a break even. So in this case, you're really not losing anything as long as you've got your electricity and your lumber covered. Now, I'm not taking gas into consideration here either. I'm assuming you're building like the normal standard refinery or industrial plant where you can make as much gas as you need. That's like the first thing I try to do almost every game. So assume you can make enough gas. There's no difference between these two. Now, if you're having a gas shortage, yeah, you wouldn't want to sell 5 truckloads of wool because you'd be using up all your gas in your fuel tank, right? So that would be one consideration I didn't take into account in this spreadsheet. And here at the bottom, this is just for extra bonus material here. This is how much you're really making on your uniforms. And again, it's a lot less than I would think. It's so much trouble to make a uniform. I would think you would make more money than $46,000 profit on it, okay? So all the ingredients of the uniform here are added up. So it takes 3 cotton yarn. And so you've got to consider, though, that each cotton yarn took 50 cotton. So 3 times that is 150, okay? 1 wool yarn took, this number up here, how many wools? Okay, so 1 wool yarn took 5 wools, so that's 50 wools. Well, I'm sorry, that's in the units of 10. Okay, so you could also say you're 15, 5, and 4. Okay, whatever. But I think I handled that math correctly when I come over here and figure these prices. Yeah, so a uniform takes 3 times as much cotton. So if we took this number here, 17,500 times 3 should be that. And then the wool is the same. 187 here is the 187 here. And then the lumber is a little more confusing. You have to take, it's going to take 30 lumber to make your cotton, plus 10 lumber to make your wool. So that's 40 lumber total. And then your energy, there's no energy to actually make the uniform. No, yeah, it's 3 energies to make the uniform. So actually, I'm only counting those. So let me revise this one more time. I had to pause the video and revise that again. It's 43 energy. Because what that's going to be is 10 energy to make your wool. It's going to be your energy for your cotton times 3. So that's 10 plus 30 is 40. Plus the 3 to make your uniform would be 43. So that brings down our profit for making a uniform over all those little individual items. I mean, at least it is a profit. It's $44,050. If you drop off the energy and the lumber and you just do the cotton and the wood, of course, it's more profitable. But again, that's like irrelevant. You know you have to sell uniforms also because of the point values. I'm not looking at the points, but to win the game, you don't just have to make money, you have to make points, right? So uniforms are going to pay more points. I didn't even get into whether wool yarn has more points or not. I really don't care because at that point of the game, I'm needing cash to build all my fabric plants. They're 500,000 each, right? So my big overall summary of this video is it's better to sell just wool than wool yarn, okay? So if you build, or the other way to look at that is if you build a fabric plant, make sure you sell cotton yarn, not wool yarn, if you have to sell something until you're ready to make the actual uniforms. Hope that's not too confusing because it still confuses me. It's a lot to think about. And I started to do this also maybe for like cakes and stuff, but I'm going to have to come back and redo it now that I've put more thought into this spreadsheet. If you find any math errors on my spreadsheet here, I'd love to know. Like I said, I'll share it. The link will be below the video. You're welcome to open it and plug in some other numbers if you want. And The other thing that, by the way, of course, could change is what they call the metadata or the dynamic rules. So if 1 week they change the price of what cotton or wool sells for, then this whole spreadsheet would have to be updated with those sales prices that are available during that week of the game. Okay, and that sometimes does happen. So again, thanks for watching. Always likes, and I'd like to talk to you in the comments if you have some comments or questions. So I'll see you in the next video.